subject. The Lord willing, it'll be in your syllabus if you pray about it.
Amen. Amen. Good. Yeah.
And this one now is on this subject of corporate praying again, part 2. And I'll try to use a little title here entitled The Method. 6 S's. 6 S's. And our basis will be in Matthew chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. Some have made a request this week about this verse and vain repetitions. Well, let's read that verse 7, Matthew 6 and 7. When you pray, use not vain repetitions. Now this is qualified by the next 4 words, the next phrase. As the heathen do. As the heathen do. For they think they shall be heard for their much speaking. The heathen are not praying from the heart. The heathen are not praying scripturally. You see, there are many things that are used by the religions of the world. The Catholics are not the only one that use beads. And those beads represent a memorized prayer. The beads that the Muslim men go around with, they call them worry beads. You see the guys with them in their hand, and they may be doing a little bit of everything in the Muslim countries, but boy, here they'll move those beads through, and they are like the Roman Catholic rosary, etc. They are memorized prayers that they offer. The Buddhists use their prayer wheels, where they'll have a wheel, and they'll put a written prayer in that wheel, and they'll stand there. It's and they'll give that wheel, and it's turning. Every time it turns, it's supposed to be their prayer. Every time it turns, it's supposed to be offering up their prayer. The Shintoists and others will hang up prayer flags, and every time and got prayers written on that. And every time the wind flops, it's moving that prayer, and it's supposed to be that flag. And then it's supposed to be their prayers go up, and their trees, especially around some of their shrines and so on. The trees are around there. I mean, the trees are solid white because they've got all these little rags, these little pieces of cloth, white cloth. It's all tied there. So that's supposed to represent their manner of praying. The Catholics also use their candles, their votive candles, that they sit before some saint or some image. And the thing that's back of that, and they've taken some things from the Scripture, Old Testament symbolic meaning there of the incense and so on. And so they sit that, and as the smoke goes up, they say the manner of praying without ceasing. But specific praying, there will be repetition in specific praying as we zero in on people and the salvation of souls, and as you pray for men, the men of God, and you pray for their ministries, and you pray for countries, and you pray for missionaries, there will be some repetition, but it is not as the heathen do. They think they shall be heard for their much speaking. I'm sure you've been in some prayer meetings where men yelled and screamed as loud as they could, and they acted like those prophets of Baal that Elijah had his encounter with, and that's not necessary. Of course, I don't have to tell you that. You know that as well as I do. But verse 8 says, "Be ye not therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things you have need of before you ask Him." And I just want to give some maybe some things that can be done in a local church situation or in prayer groups to help and encourage the shy, the self-conscious, the inexperienced prayer. Many will not go to prayer meeting because of their being self-conscious and embarrassed. They need to be shepherded into group prayer sessions. Some don't go because of some unfortunate experience that they've had, and so they're embarrassed about going now. Maybe they were made to feel very uncomfortable. Maybe something happened that left a negative situation with them, or maybe they were just plain bored in the manner in which a prayer meeting was led. And every church, about every church, has always got one pillar who's got all of his flowery phrases, and there's going to pray around the world and back, but he's not really ever prayed.
Yeah.
And those have hurt some, and therefore they'll not go. They'll not go to the time of prayer, and they'll not engage. All of these people must be taken into consideration and understood and gently challenged to participate. So let me give you 6 S's that may be helpful. Number 1 is subject by subject. They just come together and have a prayer meeting now, and there are no specific request. There is no preparation made that all might be in a card about the subjects that are presented. One person prays audibly. The other should be encouraged to pray silently on the very same subject. And that which will help is if one person, if it's necessary, either signed a subject, that petition, and it's made known, look, this is, you are to pray specifically about this. If it takes 1 sentence, or if it takes 3 or 4 sentences, but to take a specific subject or request and pray about that. At times, when there is a breakup in various groups, it's necessary to have a leader who will announce one subject at a time. And then there is a time to pray about that one thing, and then when that prayer is over with, present the next. Because sometimes there's not the opportunity to make a list, or the people are not able to have a list before them, and they must be encouraged to some way recognize the fact, hey, this is getting through. Something is being accomplished. So the leader may have to set the example by praying first and praying a very simple sentence prayer that sticks to that request. Otherwise, it's very easy to get off on all these other things, and some people are not going back to that kind of a prayer meeting. Subject by subject. Next, number, short prayers. The secret of success for small group praying is short prayers. Short prayers should allow for every person in a group, if it's not too large a group, to pray audibly. If it's too large a group, then they should be broken up of groups of 5 or 6 people, so that every person has the opportunity to pray audibly. May the experienced prayers guard against the attitude that God hears because of much praying. Remember what we saw here in our passage. The heathen think that they shall be heard for their much praying. Oh me.
Man.
Many requests will go unremembered when there is a person who dominates the group with lengthy prayers. You want to kill the spirit? You want to destroy the effectiveness of group praying? Then allow someone to dominate the group. And it may be necessary. Oh, forgive me. That you're going to make it known. Hey, if somebody gets lengthy and flowery and all these theological praises, let them know, hey, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, friend. I'm going to tap you on the shoulder.
Man.
Which means you're to stop, shut up.
Come on. It's good.
Short prayers. Number 3, simple prayers. High-sounding theological expressions. If you're going to use them at home in your own prayer closet or your bedroom. Because if you're using them anywhere else outside of there, you're only doing it to impress somebody, not God.
It's good.
When there are new people, new believers,
Amen.
shy and self-conscious, they must be made comfortable, and unnatural conversation in prayer does not do that. That should be very natural conversation. And there are a lot of new believers in Jesus Christ who see through a whole lot more than a lot of Christians who've been there for a long time.
Amen.
Prayer is not apt to be spontaneous in a group when long, beautiful sounding prayers, couched in lofty theological praises, are simple. Would somebody tap him on the shoulder, please? Simple, uncomplicated, natural, and everyday vocabulary. Prayers from the heart will help to keep people realizing that they're in a genuine atmosphere of prayer and will want to get in on it and return time after time. Number 4, specific prayer request. Specific request. Listed. Record keep of their date. And then the date of the answer to that prayer is a great encouragement to continue and expand the prayer life of a group. Hey, thanksgiving should be practiced for answered prayer.
Amen.
When God answers, that should be proclaimed and that should be recognized.
Yes.
There's a time to thank God. He has answered. So that means a notebook or a file or something. There should be a prayer leader. There should be a prayer leader. Dear pastor, that may not be necessarily you, but it has to be someone that keeps up. You want to do it in relationship to your missionaries, somebody's got to read the letters that come and got to read those letters and draw out those prayer requests that are there. And when we begin to keep records, individuals who are involved in praying will begin to see the worth of themselves in prayer when they see that God is answering prayer.
Amen.
So date the request and date the answers. And as we keep track of time, there will be some things, some discernment, some understanding that God will give some to see that God's answers and timing always perfect.
Amen.
How encouraging that is to a group of people and builds them up in prayer. And then number 5, silent periods. Now, we're on a timetable.
Yeah.
And, we're a time-conscious people, not an event-conscious people. We're going to set 15 minutes or 30 minutes for prayer. Well, it might be best if we meet in a prayer group and God continues to bless for somebody else to go ahead and start the service, and if it's before a service, and go ahead and continue with some singing for a while and stay in that prayer time. But silent periods between prayers must not be considered an embarrassment, but rather a time when the Spirit of God speaks and prepares and convicts and deals with hearts as well. Prayer is not one way. May we not forget that prayer is always two-way conversation with God. He's ready to speak too. But if we do not prepare people, then when a time of silence comes, when there's a waiting, people get all nervous, and you'll hear somebody and you'll hear somebody moving their feet and changing position and some shuffling around and so on, and somebody is all nervous. It's not a time to be nervous. It's time simply to wait. Hey, we must not think that we got to talk all the time. We don't have to talk to the Lord all the time. Give Him time to speak. Many times we're not quite long enough to listen to what God has to say. Now, I've forgotten why I put this verse here, to be honest with you. Let's look at 1 Kings 19. 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 11 and 12. 1 Kings 19, 11 and 12, yes. This was Elijah. God spoke to him. He said, "Go forth and stand before the mount, upon the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. The Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, still small voice."
Amen.
Not all the screaming, shouting. Somebody said, "Well, I'm not going to call so-and-so in prayer because you can't even hear him pray."
Yeah.
Well, that may be all right in the public service, friend. But you better not leave him out in that prayer time. Silence has become a lost art. So consequently today, we can't get quiet. We can't stay quiet long enough to hear from God.
Right. That's what you told.
Then number 6, small groups. As I said, 5, 6 people. Get more than that, divide it up. Small groups make it easier for the shy and the inexperienced and newcomers to become involved. It may not be possible for some to stand and pray publicly before the congregation, 50 or 100 people. But when they get together in that group, they're in their place. How it must bless the Lord, bless His heart when there are many small groups in a given situation, lifting their hearts and voices sincerely and openly and honestly, joyously unto Him. May we never underestimate the value, the importance of praying together and small group praying. Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. There am I in the midst of them. Now, I'm going to stop that one. And I'm just going to commit a no-no tonight and just move into, very briefly, something on praying for God's man. Something how a church can pray for their pastor. And I'm going to just, I don't think that got into that syllabus at all yet, did it? Spiritual Warriors Prayer Guide. It is briefly here, very briefly in this, I think. But no, that's not there. I'm mistaken. No, it's not here at all. That's taken each day of the week. Each day. And praying for the man of God that He's given you and your church. For example, these are just suggestions. If you're going to begin to pray and intercede for the man of God that He's given to you. Example, Sunday, pray for favor with God. Psalms chapter 90 and verse 17. Monday, pray for favor with man. Acts chapter 2 verse 47. Tuesday, pray for an increase in vision. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 2. Wednesday, for his spirit, soul, and body, according to 1 Thessalonians 5:23. On Thursday, for protection, entire Psalms 91. On Friday,
Father, you go a little too fast.
for his finances. I'm going back in just a moment. On Saturday, the family. All right, let's go back to Sunday. Favor with God. Psalms 90 and 17. That would include spiritual revelation, the anointing of God, and the holiness of God in his life. Psalms chapter 90 and verse 17. Favor with God. On Monday, favor with man. Acts 2:47. You notice the testimony there of that church? Pray for the entire congregation. Pray for the staff. Pray for your leaders, your Sunday school teachers, etc. Pray for the favor of the man of God and the church of God with those in the community and those that do not know Jesus Christ. Favor with man. Acts chapter 2:47. Tuesday, for an increase in vision, according to Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 2. Now, involved in the increase of vision, wisdom, enlightenment, motives, and guidance. Motives. You see, there can't be real vision without correct motives. I mentioned that earlier. If all that can be seen is building an empire, a mega church, instead of that which pleases God, incorrect motives, there will not be vision. An increase in vision, the four things that are necessary there is wisdom and enlightenment, proper motives, and the guidance of the hand of God. An increase in vision. Wednesday, spirit, soul, and body. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 23 speaks about being complete. Complete in every way. In the spirit, the soul, and the body. Wednesday, 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Spirit, soul, and body. That man might be complete in every way. Thursday, protection. Protection. Now, Psalms 91, the entire chapter. Protection against temptations. Protection against deception. Deception can come in many forms. Deceptive doctrine. Deceptive people. Deceptive philosophies of ministry. And then protection against the plans of the enemy. The enemy has plans for every man of God. And that's to bring him down into disgrace. And so consequently, bring about a far-reaching effect. It will affect the unsaved, will affect new believers, will affect even other believers, will affect the church, affects the cause of Christ, drags into the dirt the name of our Lord. So Thursday, protection, Psalms 91, and you study Psalms 91, you'll see what's there. Friday, finances. Well, you say, what's that got to do? Well, man of God may have priorities straight in his life. That, again, there's a need of protection there. How many churches need protection today? Stay out of debt. If a man leads them into a debt situation, it will bind them in relationship to missions and many other things. So there needs to be prayer, that there will be priority in finances. The blessings of God will be on the provision of the man of God and the things of the Lord. And Proverbs 8, 17, 18, and also verse 21. Biblical principles. These principles, it's more blessed to give than to receive. Acts 20. Luke 6:38. These principles might not be one, that the church would give in, or the people would give in to the church, but then it'd be outflowing as well. That's Friday. Saturday, for the family of the man of God. And the first thing there was unity.
Amen.
The family must be united in vision, ministry, spiritual life. That the devotional life will be as it should. Pray for the spouse. Sometimes she needs more prayer than the man of God does.
Yes, sir.
Pray for the children. They need the protection of God, because they become special attacks of Satan. Plead the blood over them. For God to build a hedge of protection about the children. And there are many verses. Matthew 6:31 to 34. Psalms 25:12 to 15. Joshua 24:15. I think there are many others that you could add. If you will cross-reference some verses there. I think we've dealt briefly 2 or 3 times this week on the importance of intercession and the man of God, and for the man of God, for especially the pastor in this country. And so I'll terminate our time together this week with that brief review of that. Thank you very much for your patience and your attention, your appreciation this week. I'm very grateful for you. I appreciate very much.